council meeting of May the 10th. If we can rise for the pledge of allegiance.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 12th, 2022 regular meeting. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Ayes have it. Ms. Carlin, could I have the treasury report, please?
Good evening. This is the unaudited April 30th, 2022 treasurer's report. Total unrestricted funds, $5,904,631.41. Total restricted funds, $2,981,886.63. Total cash in the accounts, $8,866,518.04. And yes, we are in good shape.
And I assume the budget process started for next year.
Yes, we have had some meetings and these people will be involved in that, so the 16th. I do want to mention, and I feel as though I'm repeating myself from last, we all know that the fuel situation for our units are, they have gone up. In the public service area, from last month, they've gone up 14%. In the public safety area, it's gone up 16%. So you must be cognizant of that when we go forward in our budgeting.
Any questions for the treasurer? Motion to approve the treasurer's report. Second. All in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you, ma'am. Report from the city administrator and staff.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Platt. I just have a few items for council this evening. The city street projects that were funded for this fiscal year are set to begin the first week in June. Just as a reminder, we're doing Brighton Avenue, 3rd and 13th Street between Brighton and Moore, A Alley off of Cherry, West 9th Street to end, and miscellaneous speed bumps in various locations throughout the city. So that'll start on June. It's supposed to start the first week of June. An update on Delmarva. They are starting this Thursday, the 12th, and as council is aware, I've been indicating that their intentions were to start on the Strand. I was notified today that in fact they are starting on East 2nd Street. And so they're kind of going in a different direction. So they'll go from East 2nd to Harmony, from Harmony to the Strand, and then the Strand to Delaware. And as you may recall, we were led to believe it was going to be just the opposite. So hopefully they'll be out there on Thursday. And then just the last item I have for council is to add to what the treasurer said concerning the budget workshop. As council is aware, we start next Monday. We are meeting tomorrow with finance and the treasurer, and we hope to have our presentation for council no later than Friday. So you'll have the weekend to review it.
Yeah, just if possible, get it out as soon as possible, because the way we did it last year, I thought worked really well. It was pretty efficient. Everybody had time to review it.
The only thing holding us up right now, we had hoped to have the ASME union agreement completed last week, and it wasn't. And so if it had been, we'd be able to probably get something out tomorrow afternoon. But that's the only thing holding us up at this point. And like I said, we're going to review what we have to date, and then we'll just update with the ASME numbers and get it out to you guys.
Okay, thank you.
So are they planning on, I saw the big signs out that say the 12th through
17th.
the 17th? Are they going to have this just East 2nd all done through the 17th, or there?
Well, no, okay, so the conversation I had with, again, with them today was because that was my impression, and so they indicated that the entire project would probably could go through the fall, the East Second to Harmony and down the Strand. So that's a little deceptive. So I think it's just the East Second Street portion that they're talking about.
And also, because I don't know this, there are red markings on Second Street, cross Harmony by Sally Monaco's house and a couple elsewhere. Are those just marking where the lines are? Is that where they're going to be digging up? And there's different color,
Yeah.
there's red, there's blue, they all mean something different. I don't know.
Well, and
They
they're,
identify utility.
right,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's what that is. And they will be, they will be digging, obviously, on those streets.
Right, right.
How close or above that area, I would assume, right, directly over. Right.
Oh, okay. All right.
Where the electrical line.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
Any questions for the City Administrator?
First, I want to start by apologizing. You don't have my report this month. Our database was down, so as soon as I get that out, as soon as the database is up, I'll email it to you individually. And on that note, the subject came up this week about how we release information. So we are in the process of kind of reassessing how we release information to the press. So when I took over, one of the things I did was create the Facebook page, and I reached out to the media outlets and said, follow us on Facebook. If you see something you like, capture it, share it, call us with questions. The reason we started that was when we would send these press releases out, they just weren't getting used. So this way, it's real-time reporting. But there was an incident on the Strand in the middle of April where a DUI was going the wrong way on the Strand and struck 3 cars. That didn't get released, and that was an oversight on that. So we talked about it internally, and I think you all know that we have an on-call staff officer that carries the phone with them. So when an incident happens, they handle it operationally. Now we're going to probably say that they try to handle the PIO part of it too. So I want to take a minute to thank all of you that showed up to both our graduation and then our promotion award ceremony. That meant a lot to the folks to see so much support. A few of the highlights this month, our community outreach folks for each neighborhood developed a couple of some information from different neighborhoods. We identified a definite speed problem on Wilmington Road, so we're addressing that. We're addressing another issue of oversized vehicles being parked in Washington Park, so we've addressed that with some enforcement. We continue to reach out to members of the community, ask for the issues, and they give us their problems, and we try to address it. I'm going to say right now, 90% of the complaints are traffic related. So we had a staff meeting. We've readdressed some of the ways we're addressing the traffic enforcement. So you're going to see a lot of traffic enforcement. We're going to be dedicating resources solely for that. We've always been pretty active with the OHS when they give us grant money. And we've been very productive with that. But we're going to try to isolate patrol cars so that they can handle, at least one person can handle this. It's overwhelming, the amount of issues we're dealing with. And on that note, one of the issues that arise, our officers are investigating a road rage incident where the suspect shot at another car. So they had an incident. I don't know what started it, but they ended up side by side and one shot at the other. And I bring that up only to say that even though it was kind of an off-peak hour scenario, it just illustrates the frustration out on the road, and it illustrates kind of the dangers to retaliating if somebody does something wrong. So we're aware of it. Our officers are aware of it, and we're stepping it up a little bit. So other than that,
Any questions, for the chief?
Just one. Excuse me. I was privileged to be at the awards and promotion ceremony, and it really was impressive. I found out some things that I hadn't heard about, some incidents where our officers really performed well. And I really think that those things need to be better known. You mentioned press releases being ignored, but information should get out there to a wider audience, because your folks are out there doing a heck of a job.
I agree. We have this conversation internally a lot. I did mention this to somebody that day, that one of the concerns we had, if you noticed, that there was an underlying trait to some of the scenarios. They're typically not the scenario we share publicly. Suicidal people, violent domestics. So this is the opportunity for us to kind of just say to you all, hey, look, I may come up here and talk about the sunshine, but there are some bad days, and our guys are absolutely in the middle of it. So, but I appreciate that. And we are working on making sure we get the message out. Thank you.
Council communications, Mr. Day, anything?
Just a couple of things. I did attend the awards and promotional ceremony at the police department. Thank you for the invitation. It was certainly a nice event. As Russ said, we do have a lot of great police officers doing a lot of great things, so thank you. And I just want to recognize and say thanks to Dan Losco, the training for the Board of Adjustment. I know it's getting underway. It sounds like it's been challenging, but I do want to thank you for getting the training moving. That's it.
I too attended the awards and promotions, and it was really moving watching our guys there, and it was great to see all of them there in one spot. And Newcastle County was covering our area, so it wasn't left uncovered, but it was really nice to see everyone together. I just want to remind everyone about a day in Old Newcastle on May 21st, and you can go to www.historicnewcastle.com for more information regarding tickets. And also, in spite of the rain, I think Main Market went very well. And I certainly made my contribution in purchasing plants to put out in the garden. So I'd like to thank them for persevering through terrible weather for that.
Mr. Schmidt?
I just want to mention one thing. May 17th is a very important day. Why, you may ask? It's the 350th anniversary of Newcastle being incorporated as a bailiwick. So that really is the birthday of Newcastle. And so on May 17th, be sure to celebrate and lift the glass to our ancestors who founded this great town.
The only thing I have is, like I said, the ceremony was very nice. Mr. Rafael, you can bring up the sinkhole on the path in the Battery. I know we worked with the state. They came in, they backfilled it. They're just waiting for the fish to do whatever they're doing before they go in and do the repairs.
Correct.
Okay.
They did have it backfilled, and I believe the completion date is end of June, early July.
Is the path open all the way now?
No.
No, okay, just to make sure. Okay. That's all I have. Mr. Mayor?
Good evening. I'm going to go a little bit out of order in what I have here and shared with all of you. Let me also extend my congratulations to the chief and the team. It was a promotion and a recognition ceremony for the men and women of the police department. It was really nice to see. I really encourage everybody to remember that during the workday, we're not just 5,500. We fill up the commercial and industrial sites. And on a Friday, we've got a lot of people over at the farmers market, Home Depot, and the surrounding areas. We swell to thousands more. So while we can think of ourselves frequently as 5,500 people, we are substantially greater than that number, and so the responsibilities to our daytime guests, whether they're employees or visitors to the community, it's quite a task for the team that we have. So Chief, thank you to you and the entire team. As was mentioned, we've got a lot of events coming up. Day in Old Newcastle on May 21st. Also, that day we'll have Paint Historical Newcastle, which will be quite a fun addition to that day. The Senior Center is going to host a fundraiser later this week. The Luck of the Irish on May 13th. Regrettably, I typically go, but I will be gone. One of my youngest is graduating, so I'll be in Clemson, South Carolina, so another one off the payroll. Quite excited. And don't forget that Separation Day is coming up, and that is going to be June 12th. I too want to add my congratulations. I see Mrs. Baldini here to the Arasapa Garden Club for the, what I'll call grit and determination that they showed. In some rather inhospitable weather last weekend. And also, I saw the same message that they sent to all of us. Appreciate their recognition of the city staff and the contributions that they make to supporting the event. Later this month is Memorial Day. And, you know, I'm always humbled by the memories that I have when I lived in DC. Walking through the silence of Arlington National Cemetery. And so we get to come here tonight and do things like this because of people who gave the ultimate sacrifice. We're here because of their efforts. Let's see if I've got anything else here that I want to mention. Oh, one last thing, sure. So attached to the statement that I shared with members of council and everybody else is a summary that I got from the governor's office that talked about the bipartisan infrastructure laws that have been passed by the Congress and the federal monies that have come to the state, the ARPA, the infrastructure laws in particular. And it's a very good depiction of that which is coming to the state via formula and that which is available via application, basically a competitive grant process. And I know that the council is going to start budget proceedings in the next week or two. And I would encourage you, I think we want to consider something a little out of the box. Notwithstanding, you know, all that Mr. Barthel does, he doesn't have time to be a full-time grants administrator. And it could be, there is, in my career, working both in the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives, I've never seen this much money ever go to the states and eventually onto the localities. This is a once in a generation opportunity. And so there are opportunities there for us, and we would be remiss. In fact, I would go maybe even further to say financially derelict in our duties. We didn't make every effort we possibly could to apply for funds. Obviously, they'd have to comport with the laws and regulations that are spelled out in those particular programs, but there are opportunities there. But it will be a full-time task to fill out all those applications and run down all those opportunities. So I would encourage you, as you think about the next budget cycle, perhaps providing some bandwidth and support for the city to make application to the state for all of these different opportunities that run the gamut from infrastructure, water projects, transportation, roads, bridges, and things well beyond that. So, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I have nothing. For respect for whole business, it was discussed last week about expanding the DDD. We have a resolution 2021-12, resolution to request expansion. Thank you. I apologize, folks. Public comments, they can be on anything, any agenda item, and You have 3 minutes. Ms. Fisk?
I have a public comment to make both about,
Could you please
Res-
sign in, please?
Sorry?
You have to sign in and stuff before. Does she need to sign in?
have her signing in?
There's
There's a sign-in sheet right there.
Oh, I just want him to sign.
Okay, nothing. I have several comments to make both about resolution 2022-12 and ordinance 576. The first comment is that they were not available for the public to see until today, where all of the other resolutions that are being considered today were on Friday, which is the usual thing that's done, and I found that concerning. With respect to those two pieces of land, I think they need to be very carefully considered, because for one thing, they are both, that these are multi-family projects that are being considered eventually. This is why they're being brought up. And the Lucan's Drive one is going to be 451 different housing portions. Both of these pieces of land are near the river. We, as you know, are very subject to flooding. It's something that we need to look at very carefully. These are very large projects too, and I just find it concerning that it seemed to be somewhat fast-tracked. There wasn't a great deal of mention of it. And as I say, when we tried to see those, the resolution and the ordinance on Friday, it was not possible. So I hope that council will consider these very carefully. I think voting on them without looking at more at what the impact would be on the town really sort of gives an imprimatur to the project even before all of the planning commission and the other entities look at it. Thank you.
All right, please sign in.
As I'm finished filling this out, all I wanted to say is, some of the businesses have opened up to, sell the Daniel New Cafe tickets. So if you want to tell people in town, my business being one of them, that we happen to offer.
Thank you, sir. Clerk? Please introduce yourself and sign in. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, council. My name is Brian Mataway, right at 628 Delaware Street. Good evening, fellow residents. First, I'd like to echo the words mentioned by several people here to congratulate and to thank the chief and his staff for the yeoman's work that they do in keeping us all safe. I stand here before you today wanted to make a comment concerning the Encore resolution that I know is going to be considered later on in this meeting. And I'm a big studier of history, and I know that history often judges civilizations on how it treats two different population segments. And one of those population segments is the seniors. I find it very interesting that we're in the senior building today. And the second population segment that civilizations are judged on are how we treat our children. And I stand here before you today on behalf of my 1-year-old son, Caleb. And I have a newborn son who's, I guess, still in my wife's stomach. just went to Christiana Hospital today for our first appointment, and the baby is due in December of this year. So I stand again here for you today on their behalf, but also on behalf of all of the children of this community, born and unborn, and just asking that you throw your vote, but not only your vote, but your support and your ability to steer dollars toward helping and ensure that they have a good, safe, fun childhood, and a childhood that is not simply spent behind a computer or TV. Thank you.
Just a thing is, there is no vote on the playground tonight. It is a presentation by the group only.
I apologize.
Okay.
My name is Bill Emery. I live in Bolton. As I stand here, trust me, this is the last place I want to be standing tonight, in front of the council and in front of the handful of people that actually live here in Newcastle. I'm here standing only because of the couple resolutions that are in front of the people in Newcastle and the council tonight about these two resolutions. The development out at Lugans and the DDD out here. These are two projects that I feel have not been properly reviewed for or presented to the people of Newcastle. The people of Newcastle don't know what's coming their way. They don't know what issues will be coming their way. What type of planning has been looked at, what type of traffic studies have been done, what type of services will be affected. It seems to be just another, I don't want to say this without, but it just seems to be another Garrison project. I see this happening over and over again. And this sitting council, the sitting council before them, it happened with them, it's happening with this council. I've not seen this happen. I mean, I long for the days back when Tom McGuire was president. I doubt any of you guys sitting at that table know who Tom McGuire was. He was the president of city council who, quite frankly, had some ethics. And the council who sat with him. And I just am in total disbelief and ashamed of what's going down in my town. I've lived here my entire life. I'm 64 years old. I've seen so many good things happen here, and I've seen a lot of bad things, and these are two bad things. And I hate to see the people of Newcastle have money earned off of their back by people coming to town, like some people sitting in this room, earning money off of their backs. And it's just not right. And the council is sitting up there, put in those chairs by the people of Newcastle to do right by them. And I don't think that they are actually going to do right by them. I have 3 seconds left, by the way. And I don't see it happening.
Thank you, Mr. Emery. That's one week from here.
Rod North, East Third Street. Yeah, I just want to briefly say something because I've heard about it, but I don't really, I'm very curious to hear conversation about this ordinance 536. You've all heard me speak out vociferously against multiple unit rental properties in town and my feelings on that. From what I can see, we have plenty of rental properties in the city already. If you can't find an apartment to rent in this city, you're just not looking. But again, I don't know enough about it. That's why I'm curious to hear you all discuss it, but not even to get into, possibly what kind of problems could be brought about by bringing that amount of people, within the city limits, but just from a traffic standpoint. We've already heard the chief say that 90% of the complaints lately, I don't know for how far back, or I know all of mine, I think 100% of mine have been traffic related. You ain't seen nothing yet, chief. If something like this were to go through and that many people are coming here with God knows how many vehicles, so just give that some serious thought.
Anyone else? Kim, we have a couple emails that's going to be read.
This comment is from Phil Gross. It says, any resolutions, votes, ordinances, or supporting documentation connected to agenda items should be included on any city meeting notices at the time of the meeting notice posting. It's the council's or other committee's responsibility to provide the city office with all information and links at the same time prior to the meeting's notice posting. To please in future include all the supporting information and links pertaining to resolutions, votes, ordinances, or any supporting documentation for agenda items. This request is being made so that when a meeting notice goes out, the public will be able to read all the supporting information well in advance of any and all decisions, votes, or readings done by council. 3, why is ordinance 536 being read at tonight's council meeting before it's gone to the planning commission, sea level rise task force, MSC, or at a public forum workshop? I know that the residents are tired of finding out about city projects and new buildings only after a decision to move forward has been made.
Well, actually, if you don't mind, it's a little more thorough than what I said.
This comment is from Darcy Fisk. It looks as if ordinance 536, which will permit Parkway Gravel to build 400 plus units of multifamily housing on a 149 acres and 14 acres of commercial use on Lukens Drive near the river in Newcastle, is being fast tracked. So is a resolution expanding the downtown development district next to the Garrison on 7th Street, again for the development near the river. Ordinance 536 will have its first reading at the council meeting on Tuesday, May 10th, which means it may be passed at the June meeting. At the April meeting, City Administrator Bill Barthel announced that he had had a conference on the subject with the lawyer for Parkway Gravel, City Lawyer Dan Losco, and AECom engineer Chris Rogers. He provided council members with an information packet. There was no discussion with council. Neither ordinance 536 nor resolution 2022-12 have been posted on the city website, so they should have been available on Friday, May 6th. Therefore, residents could not examine their details. It's vital for residents to have information and input on these projects. If development planned, they will affect our property values. They may overstretch our police, fire company, and trash collection services. They will greatly affect the ability of the land to absorb water, which will have serious impact on the town, already prone to flooding. Who's going to benefit if they are built? Certainly not the residents. Ample time must be given for 536 and 2022-12 to be sufficiently considered by council.
Anyone else? You have a motion to read resolution 2022-12.
Second.
Ms. Velasco, would you mind reading this for us and kind of just give us a quick overview before council asks questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is resolution 2022-12. The resolution to request expansion of the boundaries of the Downtown Development District. Whereas under the Downtown Development District Act 22 Del Code, section symbol 1901 et sec, the act, the state may designate districts within Delaware cities, towns, and unincorporated areas that will qualify for significant development incentives and other state benefits, and
whereas each such district is known as a downtown development district, or a DDD. And whereas under the act, the city's population density permitted a maximum of 95 acres to be eligible for DDD designation. And whereas the state previously approved the designation of approximately 85 acres in the city as DDD land, leaving 10 additional acres eligible to be designated as part of the city's DDD. And whereas the city has adopted certain local incentives to encourage development in the city's DDD zone, but only DDD-related projects only a few DDD-related projects have been developed in the city. And whereas the city has been approached by individuals interested in developing a multifamily project in the 7th and South Street corridor of the city, an area designated as a, quote, investment level 1 area by the state of Delaware, but located outside the city's existing DDD boundaries. And whereas the council desires to take better advantage of the act by requesting and applying for expansion of the boundaries of the city's existing DDD to include an additional 9.24 acres in the 7th and South Street corridor of the city. And whereas the properties proposed to be added to the DDD, the expansion properties, are the following: tax parcel 21-014-00400, that's 427 West 7th Street, 4.26 acres. Parcel 21-014-00555, that's 423 West 7th Street, 0.68 acres. 21-014-00579 at 0 West 7th Street, 0.38 acres. Parcel 21-014-00491, 0 Gray Street, 0.06 acres. Parcel 21-014-00-401, 427 Gray Street, 0.05 acres. Parcel 21-014-00-402, that's 425 Gray Street, 0.03 acres. Parcel 21-014-00-403, that's 423 Gray Street, 0.06 acres. Parcel 21-014-00-405, that's 421 West 7th Street, 0.59 acres. 21-014-00-406, 0 Gray Street, 0.07 acres. Parcel 21-014-00-407, 301 West 7th Street, 0.28 acres. Parcel 21, part of parcel 21-014-00-409 at 520 South Street, 0.8 acres, and a paper street parcel at West 7th Street, 0.92 acres. And whereas council believes the requested expansion of the city's DDD would greatly benefit the current and future residents, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and others within the city of Newcastle. Now therefore be it resolved that 1, the city council supports and authorizes the application for the inclusion of the expansion properties in the city's downtown development district, provided such expansion shall not become effective until it's approved by the Cabinet Committee on State Planning Issues and upon adoption of a confirmatory resolution by City Council. And 2, the city administrator, acting as the city's district administrator for the DDD, the administrator, is authorized and directed to file an application on behalf of the city to the state of Delaware to expand the city's downtown development district so as to include the expansion properties and to provide such other documents and information as may be necessary or desirable in connection with such application.
Any questions for council?
I'm sorry. Not to interrupt, but I do have Mr. Rick Farrell, who's a business and economic development consultant and a DDD coach.
Okay.
Who's also here to make some comments on, about the district, about the expansion and that type of thing.
Okay.
If you want to proceed with questions or.
Okay, I'll bring them forward.
Okay, Rick, if you want to, please, sorry about that.
Thank you. My name is Rick Farrell, and my company is Retail Market Answers. And I'm a private consultant with a contract with the state of Delaware. And I basically offer coaching services, technical assistance that our 12 DDD communities need around the state. And it's not very infrequent since 2014, as DDDs get underway and start to find their development way in executing their district plan, that they come back to DSHA and the Division of Small Business asking for a boundary extension like the one that's being proposed in Newcastle. The city of Wilmington, for example, since 2014, has had 3 such expansions, maximizing the allotted acreage that they are allowed to have that designation. I thought one of the things I could do for you this evening is just give you a broad picture overview of what the process is if you choose to go down this road. One thing that I just would underscore is this resolution is obviously not tonight to actually move forward with any kind of expansion. The process is actually to first council making this resolution tonight is simply saying that they want to make an application that would probably be formulated over the next couple of months. And that application would be submitted to DSHA and the Division of Small Business. It's reviewed and then sent to the Cabinet Committee, which is every cabinet official in the state of Delaware reviewing sometime in the fall every such request from every DDD in the state that day. Once the application is completed, it would be scheduled for a conversation with the Cabinet Committee. Typically, that's one person representing the municipality that is putting forth the application. In many instances, it's the town administrator, town manager, whatever the structure. And that day, the application is heard and typically decided on. So you leave the room knowing if you're going to be allowed to have the expansion. In the case of this particular expansion, the things that they'll be looking for are what is it connected? Is it contiguous to the current district? And from what I've seen, the answer is yes, it is. So they would check that box, if you will. The next thing they would look for is the rationale. They would make sure that it's consistent with the things in your comp plan and your district plan, the things you said that you wanted to do in the community when you were given the designation. And is it within the allotted acreage for your community? In this case, as the resolution to apply for the application to expand says, you're allotted 95 and you're currently at 85. So if the parcels that you're looking to focus on are under 10 or under acres, then it would seem that you would check that box too. What you're not doing tonight is checking any boxes that have to do with the quality of any proposals or presentation. One way to think of it is you're getting ready to get ready. A lot of the communities that have come back to the state asking for such expansions want to take full advantage of what the legislation enables that community to have, and to just make sure you're maximizing the opportunities in that realm. So if you have any questions about the, and by the way, once the Cabinet Committee approves the application, then what would happen is you would come back to council and ask council to approve the expanded resolution to approve the expanded boundary. And then what you would be able to do is set upon the work of determining what kind of development you want in that area, and you would be able to encourage or entice the development with the rebate that's attached, the incentive that's attached to the areas that have that designation. So one way to think of what you're doing tonight is to get ready to get ready. Have it, we've all heard the expression, projects being shovel ready. Well, if you're having a conversation with the developer that you're having a conversation with and you come to terms, it's important from a timing standpoint to be able to move when you come to mutual terms. And that's why communities have sought to do this so that they don't have a hurry up and wait situation when they have all parties ready to go in a particular date. This one will just allow you to sort of check that box that you are prepared for whatever growth you're going to be receiving in the expanded area.
Mr. Smith, any questions?
I remember working with you when we first got started, that you gave us some very valuable coaching advice. And I think that probably there is concern that this somehow makes a commitment, and we're not doing that tonight. And just having the district is an overlay that allows us to do some things, provide grants or provide incentives for things to happen, like we have new townhouses on Young Street in Charlottetown that benefited from the program. So I thank you for coming, and I'm sure that you maybe have alleviated some concerns.
Well, good. And I don't leave after tonight either. One of my roles is to help communities get unstuck with the plans that they're trying to make and moving forward. So if you need that kind of technical assistance, I'm happy to provide it. If it's not in my wheelhouse, I can direct us to the resources that might be helpful in moving your conversations along to mutuality.
Any questions?
Not so much questions, just comments. I want that now. Sure. So I did serve on the Downtown Development District, and I'm 100% supportive of maximizing the district. I think that's just a good policy for the city. I think the area is actually ripe for redevelopment. As far as I know, it's probably 95 to 100% impervious surface already. But with that said, I also know that there's other fringe areas of the Downtown Development District, and what I would like to see, we're not under a timeline, we could table this, you get a recommendation from the city planner to evaluate the other fringe parcels, and if he comes back with a recommendation that this is probably the best one for us, you know, I mean, again, on the face of this, I think this is a good addition to the district. But at the same point, we're sitting here because someone asked us to add this and not because we evaluated it.
What other parcels are you thinking?
I didn't evaluate the rest of the parcels.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying, I don't know. I think this is probably the best parcel, but I don't know that.
Have we been approached by anyone else? Because this is the second expansion of the district, I think.
First.
That's the first.
In fact, Mr. Platt, you might want to just check in with Chris Rogers. Chris could make a
I
comment.
thought we expanded it once in Charlottetown.
That was, when we first applied, it was reviewed, right, it was turned down, and so we
Redid it, okay.
but you might want to ask Mr. Rogers.
That's correct. You applied for DED designation. The second year, I believe it was available, and it was turned down because we concentrated a little bit too much on the DG areas, the undeveloped areas of the city, more so than the downtown. We got the cabinet committee's message. We went back and redid the plan that created DED boundary as it exists today. We do remember that we did not maximize the acreage that was available, knowing that the city would want to expand. I don't know if there's any language in the DDP plan about where that expansion should occur. But I do remember that that 10 acres was left unfilled, knowing that the city one day would want to expand.
It doesn't seem like it's gonna hurt us to do that, but just my.
I've been against this whole project. Like I said, I did very vocal on it, so I'm gonna abstain. Joe, we can take a vote tonight. If we get it, we get it. If not, we bring it back.
If you're asking for a motion, I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second the motion to table. I'd like to ask though, Mr. Rogers to, like I said, the DDD, I did vote for it. I think this is a great idea to expand understand. But I agree with, I'm not gonna reiterate Joe's comments. You heard them and I agree with them. I'd like to ask Mr. Rogers to take a look and evaluate and, bring it back to us. Is this the best? Or is this the best? Or should we look at this area here?
Or are there others? Should there be a package? Of parcels.
Is the max still 95 acres? The max is, you have 10. You have 10 available acres.
Can you package number of parcels for expansion?
You can't, the one thing that has been very clear throughout all of the submissions that have been put to the cabinet committee is they have to be contiguous. So it has to be contiguous, and the narrative supporting the application explains the rationale for why you're selecting this and asking for it.
But basically, you're saying you can't get one parcel on the west side, one parcel on the east side.
That's exactly right. The city of Wilmington, is a large swatch of real estate to begin with, but as an example, there was a lot of conversation to try to take areas that weren't contiguous but needed some tool to spur new growth. And the way the legislation is written would require a rewrite to support that. So it has to be contiguous and make sense.
What would our timeline be to bring this back up?
Typically, the cabinet committee meets one time per year, and that meeting has been historically in September, October. So it's a fall deadline that you're up against. What you would need is enough time to do your mapping and get your rationale together. It's not a protracted process. It is not anything like the process that you originally went through to get the designation. This is simply a matter of you coming back, knowing what you know about where you want to go in the future, and saying, we'd like this area ready to receive new investment when we find the investment that we want to grow with. And you want to have that area sort of designated so that you can have those conversations with, not conceptually.
Thank you. We do have a motion on the floor before we vote on. I just have one comment. I'm just really curious. This council 2 months ago approved, or 3 months ago approved $50,000 for somebody to come in and do economic development and so forth and so on. And now we get an opportunity to do economic development, and we're tabling it. So do we want somebody to come? We are tabling it if it gets voted. So do we want to develop and see economic development, or do we not want to see it?
Yeah, we definitely, in my opinion, yes, we definitely want to do it. We just want to do it responsibly and make sure we're evaluating it correctly. So us tabling it doesn't hurt the timeline. We're still going to make September or October. We could vote on it next month as long as Chris can do the evaluation in that time period. There's nothing that hurts us from evaluating all the parcels to make sure that this is the best one for the city to add.
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying that we're contradicting ourselves. So, okay, we have a motion on the floor to table this resolution. All in favor? I'm against the whole project, so that's a moment now. Okay.
Mr. Rogers, is this something that, so we can bring this up next month? Thank you.
Yeah, resolution 2022-13 authorizing placement of electric vehicle charging stations. Motion. I think this is a formality. Actually, I think we agreed on this last month. We just put it in right.
Are these level 2 chargers?
No.
Are they?
They're level 1.
I thought they were level 2. No, level 1.
They're level 1. Motion to read the resolution.
So moved.
Second. Whereas the city council recognized the growing use of electric powered motor vehicles, EVs, throughout the country, including the city of Newcastle, and whereas this trend have resulted in the growing demand for a network of electric charging stations needed to recharge EVs. And whereas the city existing resources for charging stations are limited and needed to be expanded to serve increasing demand and to encourage further use of EVs to offset the effect of climate change. And whereas city officials have studied various locations in the city and where a new EV charging station be most beneficiary and accessible to city residents and visitors. And whereas the site deemed most suitable for new EV charging stations is at the end of Chestnut Street located formerly used for recycling bins. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the city council of City of Newcastle that authorized the installation of level 1 electric charging stations at the end of Chestnut Street and the location formerly used for recycling bins. Be it further resolved, the city administrator is authorized to take such actions as necessary to complete the installation of level 1 electric charging stations at this location. Any discussion?
Actually, I think that this might be incorrect. The electric charging station at the end of Chestnut Street, a location formerly used for recycling bins, at the parking lot there, I'm not aware there were ever recycling bins in the parking lot.
No, there were recycling bins.
The recycling bins were at the other end, weren't they?
I think it was the center.
I think there's a mix-up. I thought this was for the city garage area, the old city garage area. This is actually for the parking lot at the end of Chestnut at Second. Is that right?
Yeah.
Which is trust property.
No,
No, it's the one you're talking about. It's the one at the end of Chestnut, where the recycling bins were. Correct.
Where the old city garage is.
Correct.
Yes, I think that was the confusion. Yeah.
Where we're using that for bus
I'm
parking
sorry,
now.
where the,
Fair.
There is bus parking there.
Ferry parking.
But I'm just
next to the memorial.
Yeah, okay.
across from the world.
Yeah.
That's what they're removing here.
Oh, that's not what we discussed though. We did not discuss that. We discussed the parking lot at Second and Chestnut.
That was trust property. I was never brought up.
I beg to differ, it's brought up several times.
We did,
It was brought up, but like I said, I think the trust already approved that.
yeah.
Trust has already approved that. They're already gone in there. The trust has already approved that.
I was under the impression that the trust approved the one at Second and Chestnut.
Right.
And I still am supportive of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and then we're gonna take where the recycling bins is and put it on there.
That's what I understood this to mean. I do think at the end of Chestnut Street makes it a little
Right.
confusing in here.
Still don't think that's an ideal location.
Not at all.
We have two houses across the street, and then other than that, it's a bit of a hike to get there and charge the car.
But this is my question, who are we to say what other people think? You know, we don't know whether they're gonna park in there. We don't know if somebody's gonna buy an electric car and put it there. We don't know. We're thinking for other people. MSC thinks this is a great place to put it. Planning thinks this is a great place to put it. They were all for this. I thought we were in agreement on it last month. You know, the longer we wait, the older these things get, and they're gonna be useless soon.
Okay, would you agree that if it's not used, it could be moved to another location?
Absolutely, absolutely.
this is-
These are experimental.
Yeah, this is where the recycling bins are, where it's dark and where there's no lighting and it's,
Like been said before, MSC said they were gonna put lighting in there.
I would suggest,
Just a couple of things. I do think we are putting in level 2 chargers. And I'm supportive. I think the
Okay.
level 1 were like just the regular household cord.
Okay.
And I am supportive of putting in one charger here. And I don't know if that's very clear in the resolution, but in my opinion, I think it's good for one charger. We can see how it goes. The MSC, as you said, has agreed to some lighting. If the city can maybe, obviously we're gonna have to do some striping and everything that designated there. But I think it's more imperative for us to get these installed and moving along.
Correct.
It's been a long time. I think it's the only, it may not be the closest from properties, but it isn't taking up any parking spaces in any existing parking lots too. So
That is-
I do think it's worth a try.
That is bus parking, so it needs to be done sensitively, so you can still park buses there. That's the current use.
Okay. Motion to change language from level 1 chargers to level 2 chargers.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? All in favor of, motion to accept the resolution? Second, all in favor? Aye.
No,
Okay. The other thing too is, and like I said, I didn't come up with this thought. I actually ran into an electrical engineer in the airport, had a nice conversation with him. We should be thinking for what people want or need. No, hear me out. If I live on Jaquette Court and I don't have the ability to charge my car, I may not buy an electric car. If there's a charger there or very close, you put it in, you try it. It does not use, you go from there. But we're just letting these things sit. They're going to be out of date pretty soon. You know, we should let MSC and planning, they've had a list of where they wanted them. Let them put them in because we're just losing time and they're going to be outdated.
yeah, I support installing them, just not at this location. That's all.
Motion to read resolution 2022-14, resolution to designate one vehicle owned by the city as surplus property and authorizing disposal of said surplus property. I want to get this one just out of the way. Okay. Do I have a motion?
So, second.
Whereas the city of Newcastle owns a 2003 Ford F-350 super dump truck for which is no longer needed. And whereas the city council determined this vehicle represents surplus assets and should be liquidated and disposed of. Now, therefore, it is resolved that the city of Newcastle does approve, or the city council does approve the sale and disposal of the following vehicle. 2003 Ford F-350 super dump truck, serial number 3 Frank, Tom, Sam, Frank, 3-1 Larry, 3-3 Michael Bravo, 49070. Be it resolved that the city administrator shall have the authority to market and sell this vehicle at a public or private sale upon the terms and conditions the city administrator deems appropriate at his sole discretion. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Okay. We're going to go to a presentation now of the Old Newcastle, the Old Newcastle Outdoor Recreation Coalition. This is a presentation on improving the playground in the Battery Park. So, introduce yourself.
Not exactly sure who I'm supposed to give these to, but I'm gonna start with the mayor and then council members. Sign
Thanks, sir.
in, provide my name, and go from there. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Got my last comment. All right, so my name is Andre Jerry. I live at 65 West Fifth Street, my fiance and those two little ones back there. We moved in about a year ago. We bought our house back in October 2020, but it needed repair. So we didn't move into about April 2021. Shortly after moving in, we came across Suzanne Swift. She is more the ringleader of our group. She is the one who shepherds all of these cats and Encore, if you want to call it that. And then Nerman and Elizabeth Zubaka, who unfortunately, Nerman was supposed to present today, but their little one-year-old had some eye issues today, and so they had to go to emergency, came down the street, knocked on the door, and said, hey, here you go, you're presenting today. So, pardon any butterflies right out the gate just because I wasn't planning to present, but I'm tagged in because we're a group. I wanted to start to say and echo what many have already said to the chief on behalf of just regular, everyday, common Joe folk. Having worked for the courts as a parole officer and sheriff deputy for 11 years in PA, I certainly appreciate what you guys do day in and day out. I was not part of that ceremony. I didn't get to see it, but I've seen them before, and I know that they mean a lot to the officers to get community support, certainly from these guys, but from just regular people, that, we maybe don't say it every day when they see. So thank you guys for all of what you do. Encore, what is Encore? For people who haven't heard about it, it is a ragtag group of individuals who live right here in Old Newcastle. We got together one day because we either have kids or had kids who played on that playground over there at Battery Park. And I think we all would agree that Battery Park, as in and of itself, is phenomenal in terms of its geographic location, being right there on the water and having really a really good setup for just outdoor recreation, getting out, getting air into the lungs. Unfortunately, if we're being honest with ourselves, we would also agree that the playground equipment over there is a bit dated. It doesn't take much. You can go over in the Bear and see, what playground looks like over there. If you're from outside of Old Newcastle, like some of us are, you've been to some other playgrounds and you've seen some that look a lot nicer. So we got together and said, hey, what can we do to try and spearhead some kind of effort to get behind it. First we put a name to it, Old Newcastle Outdoor Recreation Coalition, right? So that's us. Put together our problem statement. Hey, we just want to get the playground update. We started going through and doing some of the research because as council members, I'm sure the last thing you want is somebody else just coming and complaining about something, but not bringing actual ideas to the table. So a bunch of different people, myself, I'm a lawyer by training, Nerman is the data scientist, works for UD, Suzanne is a business owner, she's been there for, Suzanne has owned the business for a very long time, let's say it that way. And it goes more and more. Brian, who came up here and stole my thunder, talking at the beginning, before I even got a chance to get up here, he's a trust officer. So we had a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different experiences. We got them all together. We said, hey, what do you guys want? What would you be interested in? So in that brochure, you'll see different pricing allotments. And ultimately what we want to do is we want to bring our playground up to, let's say, modern amenities. We want to make it an iconic playground. We want Battery Park to be somewhere people go, not just for the park, but for that playground itself. For parents and kids to be able to go and to have those memories, share those memories, to map out when they're going to Old Newcastle, whether it's a celebration day or, for anything else going in Newcastle, to be able to say, hey, gotta go visit that park, right? Come across the bridge from New Jersey, go stop in Old Newcastle. Coming down from Philly or from Wilmington, go stop in Old Newcastle. We use the Kalmar Nickel as our kind of our theme. That's where you see that ship. We want to build a playground that kind of has that ship built into it. But this stuff is expensive, right? So as you'll see on page 2, total cost that we're looking at, it would be somewhere in the range of $1 million all said and done. So we break it into phases. The first phase is $113,000. That's what our ask is of the committee, is to support, including a funding request into the Community Reinvestment Fund through State Capital Infrastructure Bond Bill. Right. So we have done a lot of research, and as the mayor said already, there are tons of funds out there in the form of grants. A lot of COVID funds, just that were authorized in order to try and get people outdoors and away from congestion. So we're looking to try and tap into that. A second way we think we'd be able to help is if we would, if you guys were interested and wanted to use us and many of the expertise as like a subcommittee. I think the mayor, if I'm mistaken, I apologize, but I think what he was alluding to, having some type of additional assistance in pursuit of finding, additional funds and grants rather, because right now it's available, it's out there in abundance. So by and large, what we're looking for is to get in front of you guys. Don't worry, Mr. President already slowed me down. He said, look, this doesn't happen overnight. You're gonna have to be patient. Nothing happens immediately. And we understand that, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that we are, we're relentless too, right? Like, we know what we want, and we do think that for, not just our children, but, you know, many of the grandparents around here, right? Like, who have little kids and want to be able to take them over there, and, you know, have that fun, with them. We want to be able to see Battery Park kind of taken to that next level. Not just because it's got a good location, but because it's also got everything else that goes along with it. So, I don't think I missed out on anything else, but
I'm gonna keep you on hot seat then.
go ahead.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Mr. Schmidt?
I guess you've gotten pretty specific here, and you've done a lot of homework. You know, maybe if something does happen, it doesn't necessarily end up being these things, but I would like to ask what you're showing here, are they all certified, playground safe?
Yes, and I'm going to do you one better. I'm gonna tag in Suzanne because she knows all about this stuff, because she's been doing all the research on it.
All right. How about the playground surface? I don't see anything about playground surface.
So the playground surface that we have right now, the shredded surface.
Come up and introduce yourself too, please.
My name is Suzanne Swift, and I've been working with Encore for the past couple of months. Putting together a research meeting with manufacturers, talking to architects, talking to contractors, really drilling down on what will work in our parks, meeting the community, finding out what the preferences are. And so the surfacing, we've been working with Compound, they've done the AOTV playgrounds in Delaware. And they agree that the shredded wood is best for the water bubbles, to put it mildly, that we have in the park. And they're also the cheapest in terms of getting that stuff out there into the park. Doesn't require a whole lot of expertise. It just requires something out there. So we did work those surfacing into this integrated in. We've also worked in installation and the manufacturers brought to our attention, and we wanted to make sure that they're
The equipment itself, certified, safe somehow? I don't know who certifies playground equipment.
Compound is, this is an organization or this is a manufacturer that only sells equipment that has been certified and find these pieces of equipment in other playgrounds throughout the Delaware.
Thank you.
It's just a couple of things. So what is the total square footage of the expansion of the existing playground area?
So they're looking to bring it back to where the playground was originally. They Google searches to see if the playground has been shrunk over time, and they want to be back to store.
So do you have any idea what it is now, what you want to bring it to? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And you don't have a layout yet, right?
No,
We do actually.
I don't know the side here though.
Yeah, we can get to the layout, we can manufacture, have put together a whole scenario, and we'll propose it, and I can email or give you access to it.
And I know we own the park, the trust maintains it. Has it been presented to the trust?
Actually, I didn't discuss, I'm sorry for that. This, in the document presented to you, we did discuss it with the trust, and the trust has already shown support for it, or signal support for it, up to ongoing maintenance once it's already installed. And including it in next year's budget. We didn't get it to them in time this year to be able to go, see funding sources this year.
So let me just throw way out there. Well, so let's just say the city was able to fund or wanted to fund the amount that you have here. Before we could fund anything, and I don't know if this is Dan, if this is Bill, Since the trust takes care of the park, wouldn't the trust have to approve everything before we could even consider giving money?
Yeah, excuse me, we would want to engage the trust in some in significant discussion about it. You know, it was my understanding that they were, like you say, at least a year to 2 years away from funding, you know, being a funding source for that. So I think we absolutely should be having discussions with them as to what their thoughts are on it, because as you say, they manage it. And in fact, you know, they've been providing the equipment, that type of thing.
Because I know there was a plan, and it's, I don't know, year or two old now, where they had, I think, moved the playground somewhere, the future plan. I'm not sure. I'm not sure of that.
We did actually speak about the Becktown Railroad Trail.
Uh-huh.
And we looked at the juxtaposition between the playground and the trail and the dome.
Okay.
So it's okay there. And they were very supportive of us going and getting other funds as well. They realized their window would be 24 months. We'd like to take advantage of all the grants that are out there now. There's a Dendroid grant which we can get pre-approval for, and they've extended the deadline for us if we can get it to them by May 23rd. I think it is. There's nothing in binding there. All we have to do is give them our wish list, and they'll consider it. And then if they, I guess, that stage, then we have the final application. Remember, there's also ARPA funds, as our mayor said. There's a lot of money out there specifically for this kind of thing. I'm afraid that if we wait a year or 2 years, that money will disappear. And we won't get it.
I think, I just, like I said, it was like, okay, hey, we're happy to do this, but the trust hasn't agreed to anything. They haven't designed. That's all I'm concerned about.
I want to thank you guys actually, because we met with Suzanne a while back. And, you know, most of the time, like you said, people just dump things in our lap and expect it to happen. You guys are happening, expecting us to catch up. You said something that was very interesting to me, forming a subcommittee. Dan, can we form a subcommittee to work together with the city government like we did with the Rising? Same principle.
You mean using citizen members, is that what you mean?
Using citizen members, set
Absolutely.
up a resolution. That way they can get funding, they can go after, it, they got full backing of the city, there's a resolution in place and, you know, put a council person on it and just like with this rising sea levels, because that would definitely move things a lot quicker. Because you gotta remember too, we all work full time. This is a part-time job. This is a volunteer job for us. It really is. I mean, it really is. And so that may be something to look at. We could have a resolution next month, putting a citizens committee together and organize you guys. I mean, you're already organized, but let's get under the city's umbrella and go from there. And like I said, you know, we're going into budget season. I didn't mean to burst your bubble earlier, but things move slow. I mean, sometimes it takes 6 months to a year to buy a police car. You know, you don't think it's that easy, but that's the way it happens at times. But, let me work with Mr. Losco on that, and we'll set up a resolution for next month, at least get you under the umbrella of the city.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate your time. And I appreciate all you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think, you know, before you go out asking anybody for money, you have to have a plan that everybody agrees to, right? We understand that. Okay.
And that's what that committee can do, pull the trust and get a member, just like we do with the Rising Sea, get a trust member, get a council person, get somebody, just kind of form it the same way with a different purpose.
Well, I'm just talking about getting.
Oh, no, you're right. I totally agree with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna have the first reading of ordinance 536. Just listen to some of the public comments. Mr. Losco can correct me. But this is just the first reading. Nothing's happening right now. This is a way of being transparent. This is a way of bringing it out to the public. We're not going to start building as people suggested tonight that it's going to be passed next month and we're going to be building in July. That's not the way it happens. This still has to go, and Mr. Losco, correct me if I'm wrong. Once this ordinance is read, it still has to go to public hearings. It still has to go to planning. It still has to go to
Plus review.
the plus review and then the comp plan. So there's a lot involved here. We do have Mr. Tucker here tonight to give us a quick presentation. If council approves, but I think we should at least go ahead with the first reading, and that way it takes some of the questions away or answer some of the questions. And it also makes it very transparent that we're opening up to everyone. So do I have a motion to read ordinance 536?
So moved.
Mr. Alaska?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is ordinance 536, an ordinance to rezone portions of property located at 130 Lucas Drive and 150 Lucas Drive, Newcastle, Delaware. Tax parcels 210220001 and 210220002, totaling 168.76 acres. From the IOP zoning classification, that's industrial office park, to the R3 zoning classification, multifamily residential, as to 149.08 acres, and to the GC zoning classification, general commercial, as to 13.96 acres, and further to amend the city's 2020 comprehensive plan in a manner consistent therewith. Whereas tax parcels 210220001, that's 130 Lucas Drive, and 210220002, 150 Lucas Drive, collectively the property, comprise 168.76 acres, more or less, of undeveloped land, currently zoned IOP industrial office park under the city's zoning code. And whereas the city's 2020 comprehensive plan's suggested land use map shows the entirety of the property to be designated for light industrial office park use. And whereas Parkway Gravel Inc., the owner of the property, has petitioned the city council to alter the property's current zoning classification from IOP industrial office park to R3 multifamily residential as to 149.08 acres, and to GC general commercial as to 13.96 acres, with the remainder of the property 5.72 acres retaining its current IOP zoning. All is reflected on Exhibit A attached here too. And whereas if the property is so rezoned, Parkway Gravel Inc. intends to re-subdivide the property into two parcels of land for the purpose of developing the R3 parcel zoned as 451 unit mixed use project, including 46 single family homes, 26 twin units, 107 townhouses, and 272 apartment units. The GC zone parcel is proposed to be developed for 12,000 square feet of retail space with second floor apartment units, a community clubhouse, and a public restaurant. And whereas the owner of the property has submitted a concept plan for consideration to the Planning Commission, and prior to final adoption of this ordinance, will be required to successfully complete the site plan and subdivision approval process as set forth in chapters 213 and 230 of the City Code, detailing the proposed subdivision, the precise areas to be rezoned to R3 and GC zoning classifications, the area which will remain zoned IOP, and the specific nature of all development proposed for the property. And whereas the council believes that rezoning the property consistent with the fully code compliant site plan approved by the Planning Commission and amending the 2020 comprehensive plan as may be necessary in accordance therewith to be reasonable, will tend to further the general welfare of the city. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the council of the city of Newcastle as follows. Section 1, the official zoning map of the city of Newcastle incorporated into the city code pursuant to section 230-2 of the code is hereby amended to rezone tax parcels 210020001, 130 Lucas Drive, and 210020002, 150 Lucas Drive, to the R3 multifamily residential and GC general commercial zoning classifications with zoning district boundaries consistent with the site plan determined by the Planning Commission as being in full compliance with the city code, the approved site plan. Section 2, the city's 2020 comprehensive plan is hereby amended as necessary to make the approved site plan consistent therewith. Section 3, if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or invalid, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. Section 4, in the event any existing ordinances or parts of ordinances are in conflict herewith, the provisions of this ordinance shall control. Section 5, ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are hereby repealed, provided such repeal shall not abate the right of action already accrued on any repealed ordinance. Section 6, the ordinance shall become effective immediately upon passage.
Thank you, Mr. Blasco. Anything to what I said
Yes, I'll give you an overview quickly as to process here. First of all, the council is required to introduce a rezoning ordinance when a property owner petitions to have their property rezoned. This is under section 230-61 of our code. So we can't not do that if it's requested by the property owner. It doesn't mean it needs to be approved. This is an ordinance, and just like any other ordinance, council can vote it up or down. Now, this particular ordinance then, once it's had its first reading, proceeds to the planning commission for review of a concept plan. The concept plan will be reviewed later this month, but I doubt very much of any action will take place at that point, because later in the month, the applicant will go for plus review. And we ought to have comments back from the various state and local agencies in roughly 30 days or so. So I would expect that the June Planning Commission meeting, you will see a more substantive dialogue about this particular matter and its concept plan. So the concept plan is a big overview. It's not giving any of the details. Now, the applicant has already gone quite a bit for the full engineering of the site. So they're going to want to proceed with site plan approval as well. So what will happen after that is that the Planning Commission is involved with evaluation of the site plan as it meets the nuts and bolts of the code, building setback lines, height requirements, zoning limitations, and what have you. All of that has to be fully engineered, fully vetted, likely multiple hearings before the Planning Commission before it ever comes back to City Council. And before it comes back to City Council, we will probably need a positive recommendation from the Planning Commission on the amendment of the comprehensive plan as well. So the point being that when this comes back to council, after that full vetting process, both at the state level and at the PC level, you should have a fully vetted site plan that meets the requirements of the code. You should have the recommendations of all the state agencies from the plus review process to consider. And you should have the full recommendation of the Planning Commission, not just on the rezoning, but also their comments as to the compliance with the code of the site plan itself. So that this will be presented to you finally, and I expect this to take months, as a fully developed plan, and where you will know what you are getting if you vote to approve it. That can be bound to the developer by restrictions, deed restrictions, voluntary assurances, as they say. So that is how you would know in good faith that you would be getting exactly what you're voting on. That's the long and short of it.
Thank you.
So the things that, the things that you mentioned, the things for traffic and public safety and all that are also all part of this that have to be looked at. And this is just, okay, like you said, we're required to do this. Now they go do all that stuff. And yeah, months, a year or more, I don't know. You know, this isn't approving it. It's a lot, now they can go do those things that you were talking about.
Thank you. And normally we don't, after a first reading, we don't normally have comments because there's going to be a public hearing. But just to be totally transparent, we did ask Mr. Tucker and his team to be here tonight to kind of give an overview of what's going to happen. So Mr. Tucker, the floor is yours.
But then I've already started clearing out there.
It's clear, so
You're not following dirt already.
Thank you, President. Thank you, members of the City Council, Mayor, good evening as well. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant. I appreciate the city solicitor setting forth the legal process that we find ourselves here under. As he correctly indicated, there are several mechanisms in the code to begin a land use application. This is one of them. All owners of land in Newcastle City have a right to file a petition and to seek review through the same mechanism. And we are, of course, at the very beginning, as Mr. Lesko indicated, of that process that I certainly agree will take many months to pursue. Here with me this evening is Tom Diascanis from C&D Engineering, Seth Shapiro from Barton Partners, who is a professional land planner and prepared the concept plan along with Colin Buscanis and a representative of Parkway Gravel Incorporated, Nicholas Ferreira. With your permission, I'd like to have Nicholas hand out some slides that we're going to present via PowerPoint, but technology was not cooperating. And we have some extras certainly that we're happy to share with folks. And if we run out, I'm happy to provide electronic copies to anybody who would like them. The transparency in this process is equally important to us. We're very excited about the concept plan that we want to share with you and have filed with the city. And we are committed certainly to following code, the traffic impact study requirements of DelDOT. Certainly traffic is always a legitimate concern. We hear that a lot. And for those who are interested in responsible development in the town, we are happy and look forward to working with those folks and assuring them and reassuring them that we are going to follow codes and procedures, the various requirements that may be applicable throughout the land use process, which again, we're just starting. And just to jump in, and I know this is not the forum to do a complete presentation, but to hit, I think, some important highlights. And again, these are the pictures that we're going to hand out to you. Nicholas is going to do that now. Again, I have extra copies for folks who may want copies in the audience.
Since we have a copy of this, could you turn that toward the audience?
You want me to turn this?
Yeah, set up over there, just so.
So the ladies right here, if we run out, I promise that we'll send.
Block the mayor.
Block the mayor. Block the mayor. So if you could push that back a little further so that council.
Totally.
I'm sorry, kid.
And maybe you can turn a little bit this way. Yes, thank you. So the location of the property is literally at the outskirts of the municipal boundary between Newcastle County and the town. Right here, you can see to the north, the municipal boundary between Newcastle County and Newcastle City. This parcel is at the very fringe of the municipal boundary. You have 295 that's just to the north of this property. And as was correctly indicated, the property is currently zoned IOP today, and this park certainly could be developed, and this site in particular could be developed as part of a logistics operation. However, the views that this parcel offers, or these parcels offer, are unique. There's not many of these left, if any, quite frankly, of this size and scale within the city limits. And that is where the mixed use concept has come from, which is the incredible views that you would have from this parcel or these parcels of the bridge and of course the Delaware River. And that's part of the concept we'll share with you in just a few minutes. I know we only have a few minutes, so I will move quickly, but I first wanted to share with folks, this is not a parcel or parcels that are directly connected to the town. You would have to drive out to Route 9. You would have to travel not just seconds, but many minutes to get to Delaware Avenue. This is truly on the fringe of the town and very close to 295. That doesn't mean a traffic study won't be required. We fully expect DelDOT to require a traffic study, just like they would if it was developed as a logistics park with tractor trailers. It would certainly, we believe, be required to be studied with vehicles, and that would result from the mixed-use project. The current zoning does permit office, as we know, industrial, strategic, logistics park, but it also permits commercial, incidentally. A part of this plan also includes commercial, as was mentioned in the reading of the ordinance. So we have commercial, we have a clubhouse, we have residential, we have a range of housing types that would provide a variety of different price points for folks. And with that said, I'll move to our next exhibit in the package. Thank you, Seth. Which just drills down a little bit closer. It gives a breakout of the unit types. And you can see here single family, you see apartments here, and you see twins. Here's the clubhouse, apartments, and then you have some commercial in addition to the clubhouse proposed along the frontage of Luton. And the idea is certainly a mixed-use community where folks can live, they can work, they can eat, and they can walk around a mixed-use community that is somewhat self-contained. It also offers the opportunity for folks who work in the park today to stop and shop and eat at this location, perhaps as an alternative to traveling out to Route 9 for their lunch. Directly to the south of us is the charter school. A lot of folks don't know the charter school is located contiguous to this parcel. Just here to the south, just off of that line. So outer limits of the city, proximity to 295, no direct connection to the city unless you go out to Route 1 and travel some distance to the city. Current zoning permits industrial office and convenient commercial. We're certainly be adding a residential component to that. We're located contiguous to the charter school. And we think these views certainly warrant this type of project and this type of attention as opposed to logistics use. And to that end, I'd like to have Seth show you a concept. And again, these are concepts, but Seth is a land planner who prepared these based on the concept plan. And Seth, maybe we want the audience to see, I could also maybe turn a little bit. Okay, I just want to make sure that the council can see as well.
We have
it.
Very good. You can see in the rendering, really the rare, and there's not a lot of opportunities to do this in Newcastle County or Newcastle City anymore, where you have this fantastic view of the water and the bridge. And yes, could you do logistics there? You still have that view? Yeah, but it would be hidden from a lot of folks. And certainly, that site would not be redeveloped. It's a logistics center, likely any time in our lifetime anyway. So that's why this option as an alternative has really been looked at closely by my client, and ultimately has led to the application in front of you. So that is a quick thumbnail sketch of the application, if you will. And we're happy to answer any questions that council may have, but certainly we'll be presenting this at a full hearing in front of the Planning Commission upon referral. I also like to put on the record briefly that we've agreed proactively in conversations with the city solicitor and the town planner to waive the 90-day period that the Planning Commission would traditionally have to study this and send it back. We are not in a hurry. We are not rushing. We do certainly want to capture the market, but we don't want folks to think we're moving too quickly, because we're not. We want to work with our neighbors and the city and those folks interested in responsible development over the next several months, put together an approach here. These are our ideas. People may have some better ideas, but we want to work with folks in good faith to make even a better one. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Anybody else from your team want to speak?
If there's any questions, we're happy to answer.
Normally, after a first reading, we don't discuss it. We just wait for the planning commission or the public hearing that way, so to a full discussion.
Understood. Thank you for giving us
Thank
the
you,
opportunity to do that.
I just want the council to be transparent. I just want everybody, there was a lot of confusion, so to say, on how this was brought about, and it's obviously done the right way, and I just want to make sure everybody is aware of what's going on. So, thank you for coming out.
Thank you, President. And we'll be out in the lobby area if anybody would like additional copies or contact information. Thank you all very much.
If I can, we are going to adjourn to an executive session after this next resolution, so we do kind of clear the building for that.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you.
Mr. Bartel, I would just like to ask about, because I did have a question, why this ordinance and the resolution that we first read, why they were not available on Friday.
Well, Mrs. Leary,
I think I can answer that. And if you want to blame me, you can blame me. That we had been meeting with or discussing this project with the developer, and the city planner and I had been discussing actively all during the week the best phraseology to use in this ordinance. So that really wasn't finalized until Friday afternoon. So we got it out as quickly as we could. but that's why it came late. And I will also say, there's nothing in the FOIL law that says we have to put up a resolution or an ordinance in advance. We have to post an agenda 7 days in advance, but not necessarily every single document that's going to be considered by council. Happened many times.
Well, it happened before the justice.
Yes, it
It did. I mean, we rejected one. It's not that we're trying to hide things, it's just working out the language sometimes between the lawyers. Okay. Let's see on the agenda, is resolution 2022-15, a resolution requesting the governor of Delaware to direct the state police to correct their public reporting system regarding Newcastle. Mr. Smith, would you like to read this one?
I would, before we're doing that, I would like to share some headlines from state police reports. Suspect arrested. Newcastle man arrested for convenience store robbery. Newcastle. Troopers arrest Newcastle man for weapons charges following traffic stop, Wilmington. Troopers arrest Wilmington man in stolen vehicle during traffic stop. Newcastle. Newcastle man arrested for carjacking at convenience store. Newcastle. State police arrest Newcastle man for knife point robbery. Newcastle. State police investigating carjacking. Newcastle. Newcastle man arrested for attempted murder. Newcastle. What all these have in common is none of these happened in Newcastle. None of them. And I'll read the resolution and then explain a little more. Resolution 2022-15, a resolution to request the governor of Delaware to direct the state police to correct their public reporting system regarding Newcastle. Whereas the city of Newcastle, the city, is one of the most important visitor attractions in Delaware and depends on having a high-quality reputation for success in attracting businesses, residents, and visitors. And whereas the state police publicly report all crimes and criminals by post office address, and whereas this means that all crimes and suspects involved in crimes located in the 19720 zip code, population 59,250, the largest one in Delaware, are publicly reported as being in Newcastle, population 5,497, to the detriment of Newcastle's reputation. And whereas there were 7 such incidents this past January alone, and whereas none of the crimes reported by the state police actually occur in Newcastle because the Newcastle City Police does its own reporting. Whereas all efforts to have the state police address this issue over 2.5 years have failed, even though the city has suggested multiple alternatives. Now, therefore, the City Council hereby resolves to bring this unfortunate situation to the attention of Governor John Carney and ask that he direct the state police to work with the city of Newcastle to correct this problem to the mutual satisfaction of both parties by July 31st, 2022. Such a solution should address all types of crimes, suspects, and incidents now reported as happening in Newcastle. And just a few things I'd like to underline. We've tried to work with the state police, but really have gotten nowhere. And who wants to bring up their business to a high crime area? Who wants to have their home value brought down by living in a high crime area? And what visitors want a chance visiting a high crime area? And do Delaware Tourism and Wilmington and the Convention and Visitor Bureau want to send visitors to a high crime area? And so what we have are a failure on the part of the state police to look at any type of alternative. And, there are, 5 to 10 different ways they could address this without reporting everything happening in Newcastle. And I would think anyone who's a homeowner in Newcastle would be concerned about the value of their home when the state police are dumping 10 times the amount of crime into the city as actually occur in the city. So that's it. Thank you for your tolerance and patience.
Mr. Day, any comments? Ms. Larry, any comments?
Actually, just as an example, I did have a couple of people, and this is not recently, but it's been over the last 4 years that I've been on council, contact me about why reporting, this is even before Russ brought it up, why reporting was so incorrect, because like on Zillow and other other sites such as, they report crime statistics. Thank you. And when I called them, I actually reached out to them and called them, and they said, well, we just take what's reported by, the local police. And I said, well, our local police don't report that. And they said, well, we kind of get it from the county and the state. The county has corrected a lot of what they do, but the state has not. So if someone's looking to buy a home and they look at your crime stat on some of these red things or whatever, it's not being reported correctly. And, even Zillow had things on little pinpoints dropped in our town, and I'm like, that street doesn't even exist here, So this, I understand what we tried to do, and it hasn't worked.
First of all, I don't think we have the authority to tell the governor what to do. That's just my thing. And if something happens in Collins Park, is that not Newcastle?
No.
It's not.
No.
We are, the name of our town, we change this involuntarily, is Historic Newcastle. So when they report Newcastle, they're not reporting the town. Our town is named Historic Newcastle. My deed was actually changed when I refinanced my mortgage. So I think this is just an elitist grab. I really do. I just think it's unbelievable that you want to go and try to tell the state police how to handle things. Newcastle County is Newcastle. I don't care how you look at it. We are historic Newcastle. Doesn't matter. It just doesn't make this is a first world problem. I hate to say it. This is just sad. All we're going to do is cause aggravation with the uppers in the state, and other neighborhoods are just going to look at us like a bunch of elitists. That's all there is to it. And our town is Historic Newcastle. So they're not mentioning Historic Newcastle. They're saying Newcastle. Our town is Historic Newcastle.
Our city name is the city of Newcastle.
No, sir. We are
Check our charter.
Check the post office.
That's the post office.
We changed it.
That's the post office name.
No, you changed it.
That's the
You-
post office.
My deed says Historic Newcastle.
That's your address. That's the post office.
So we live in a historic Newcastle. Why are we worried about what they report in Newcastle?
Okay.
Collins Park's not Newcastle?
No, it's Newcastle County.
Right, okay. Same difference. Well, all in favor of this motion?
Aye.
All against? Aye. Motion is tied, motion fails. Make a motion to adjourn the executive session. Second. Folks, if we can clear the room, take about 5 minutes and clear the room so we can see executive session.